If you have back pain, specifically after sitting or getting out of the car, or if you've been out to dinner and you go to transition and stand up and you're like, "Oh, it hurts right here," this video is for you. And I'm going to give you some ways that you can help to manage that. It might take some time for that to feel fully better because it does take some work, but these hopefully will be some helpful exercises. Remember, this is not as meant as medical advice. This is just general tips of things that I give to my clients when they have pain in their butt. No one needs pain in their butt. Let's make that pain in the butt go away. If you don't know me, I'm Laura Turner, and I'm a physical therapist, and I help Gen X women manage hip and back pain so they can stay walking, stay going out to dinner comfortably, be able to drive and be comfortable, be able to run when they want and be active so we can do all the fun things in life and not have to worry all the time about having to exercise and manage our pain. All right, let's talk a little bit about back pain. So when you have back pain that is worse when you're sitting, it likely happens because the muscles in the front of the hips, the hip flexors, or the hamstrings get tight and they don't move as well. Now, in this tightness, they could actually be tight and weak. So a lot of times when something feels tight, we feel like we have to just stretch. And I hear a lot of people, if my butt's tight, I'm pulling my knee to my chest, I'm trying to stretch it out, and that doesn't always happen. That might be because you either have to stretch your hip flexors and strengthen your glutes, or it could be vice versa. We know that from doing hands-on work and muscle testing in the clinic, but you can play with this and see which way feels better. Usually one will feel better. Most of the time I find that the hip flexors tend to be tight and overworked in this instance when it's painful when you're sitting, or if you have pain when you bend forward to touch your toes. So what do we do to make that feel better? Yes, we can stretch the hip flexor. One exercise I like is pulling your foot to your butt. That's going to hit more of your quad, but there are actually three hip flexor muscles that are primary hip flexors. One is the iliacus, and that one kind of sits right here in the hip joint. It is a short muscle. It crosses one joint, but it's like a powerhouse. It wants to do all the work. Then you have a psoas. We frequently put the iliopsoas together because they have a common attachment point. And the psoas attaches actually just below where the iliacus does, below the pelvic bone. And then the other end of it actually goes up and attaches at your lumbar vertebrae. So it crosses multiple joints. It's long and thin. It tends to be weak more than tight, but they work together and they can get inhibited by the glutes when we keep them in a shortened position. So the third muscle that's the hip flexor is the rectus femoris, which is one of the quadricep muscles, and that attaches right here at your hip bone. And it, all three of those work together to flex the hip. And as you're walking, they need to go on length and extend the hip. So if you've been sitting in a shortened position, those hip flexors can get tight. And then you go to walk and we're asking them to stretch and they're like, nope, I don't want to do that. Add to that your glutes, which sometimes people call them sleepy glutes. I don't love that name, but they tend to kind of not do their job. So they are lazy. We need to encourage them to do more work. I don't know if they're lazy in their scheme of things, but they get inhibited and they don't work as hard as they need to. So we need to work to get the hip flexors to loosen up to be able to get to that full hip extension at the same time as trying to get your glutes to fire and create a balance. So in the clinic, I give people as a variety of different exercises. One, I do a half kneeling hip hinge where we are down on one knee and you tuck your bottom under and rock forward, and then you stick your bottom back like you're sitting onto your heels, and you're kind of going back and forth. So we stretch the hip flexor as you come forward, get some length and load into the glutes as you go back. And as you rock back and forth, you're balancing the two of them. Another exercise I like, and sometimes it's hard to do the combination exercises, is to pull your foot to your butt. Can't reach it in my pants here, but in my space. But you pull your foot to your butt, whether you're standing or lying down, and hold that as a static stretch. That you'll feel mostly down the leg. You want to make sure that you keep your bottom tucked under, that you're not overarching your back to go grab your foot. So do a posterior pelvic tilt, so that will actually get up closer into the hip flexors as you do that. The quadricep, the rectus femoris, attaches at the hip bone, the ASIS, and goes down across the top of your knee. So super important to to hit both ends. We don't want to be shortening the proximal end where it's attaching at the hip and not getting both ends. So posterior pelvic tilt will help to get into that. And then follow that, maybe if you're not out and about, follow that with some bridges. Single leg bridge where you pull your opposite knee to your chest and you lift your bottom up in the air, getting your bottom off the ground. Keeping that posterior tilt again, so we really work the glutes and don't let the hip flexors shorten and tighten. And a third way that you might work on loosening this, if you're standing and doing a weight shift exercise, which works on push off on the back leg. And as you come forward and you keep your back knee straight, you tuck your bottom under, that gets into the hip flexor to stretch there. You want to be careful not to squeeze your butt at the same time. Just get into a nice stretch as you're rocking. This is something I do when I'm pump gas or if I'm at the grocery store, usually bored because I'm waiting in line, or I'm not quite to the magazines where I can scope out what's happening on People Magazine. So any of those random weight shifting that you're kind of just getting into the front of the hip flexor, trying to let your glutes relax. And then if you switch legs and you're still focusing. So if we were stretching our right leg, we're stretching the front of the right hip flexor, tucking the bottom under, getting into that hip. Then you switch legs and have the right leg forward. Now you're going to weight shift, get your body over that front leg and get into the glute. And as you lean forward, you actually get some more weight into your glutes. So you can do both. You're still stretching the hip flexor, strengthening the glutes. This is where I would start if I had pain in the back and it hurt when I was sitting and it hurt when I bent forward. And it hurt maybe when I rotated away from that leg. Because the hip flexors also do rotation, they do external rotation, they turn your leg out. And your glutes do external rotation also. So if you have pain here in the butt and it hurts when you rotate in, that's actually putting the glute muscle on stretch. Now you might need that. Again, we're talking hip flexors and glutes in this instance, and that's where I would start to try and loosen up the hip flexor and stabilize the glute. But then you could progress. If that doesn't work, do the opposite. Start with stretching your glute by pulling your knee to your chest and then doing some hip flexion, like you're maybe lifting the knee up. You can go back into our weight shifting exercises, which are phenomenal to help you with your walking, and start with bending forward and getting into the glute, and then finish with going in and out to get the hip flexor stretch on the push off. So there's lots of ways to play with that. And the key with any of these exercises is to explore the motion, to allow the motion to come to you and see what feels the best in your body. You can't rush through these. You have to take your time. You have to see what it feels like. And if something feels good, spend more time doing that. If it doesn't feel good, back off. Don't keep going. It's not going to help if you're like, ouch, ouch, ouch. I'm going to hit my head on the wall until it feels better. Don't do that. Do things that feel better. A third reason that you could have pain in that mid glute area is your hip rotators. Either the piriformis, which externally rotates the leg and extends the leg, and it works a lot with the glutes, or the glute medius, which internally rotates the leg and abducts the leg. So those could also be overworked. These exercises usually will help them. If you feel like when you're weight shifting forward, either on one knee or in standing and doing the weight shift, if you feel like you're squeezing your butt to get there, shake it out, let it relax. Try not to feel anything in your butt. Try to just feel it, in the front of the hip. If you can't quite get it, walk away, come back to it later, and just change position so that you really try to let that relax. when we do a pelvic tilt to get more into a hip flexor stretch, we don't want to like squeeze our butt tight. We want to try and allow that to relax. Let your abdominals do the work and just let it float into that position. Again, all this stuff is like a sea turtle. You just float the waves, take a gradual, move in and out of motion so that it feels nice, and play with it so that you know, as it, does it feel good, or is it a stretch and is feeling better afterwards, or is it an out? With these rotations, if it hurts with rotation, try moving in and out. You can stand on that leg and rotate, like lift your opposite leg up and rotate towards that leg. That's going to work on the hip internal rotation, on and strengthen that and kind of get some stretch on that. And then if you work with your leg forward, weight shifting forward and rotating away, it's going to get some hip external rotation. And again, play with which one feels better and do more of that. The videos and the clips that I have separate videos. So if you're interested and you want more of these, I have these in a free challenge, and they kind of take you through all of those exercises. So in this video, I just have some clips of them, but if you're interested in this free challenge, you just have to, let me know. I'll leave a link below, and you can sign up for that. And then if you're interested and you want to learn more and dive more into this and how to really create better mobility, and have a short video course series, I've got this link below too. You can sign up for that, and we can explore this more. I can answer your questions more directly. I want to keep it short and easy so that you can just get after it. Taking care of your back pain doesn't have to be hard. Getting that hip to feel better, it doesn't have to be hard. I've had multiple times where I wake up in the middle of the night and I've got some achy pain down my leg. I stretch my quads and I kind of squeeze my butt and tighten my glutes a little bit. By the time I move, things are feeling better. Sometimes it's one leg, sometimes it's another, but you have to play with it. You have to go with what feels good and do a little bit more. So I know exactly how it feels. Getting out of the car, things get tight. You gotta do the work to manage it. And as you do that work on a regular basis, and then from there, you go and you build some strength and you get some core strength with doing things like bird dogs or dead bugs, and like planks, that you're really looking to keep the pelvis neutral, and maybe some squats. That all helps to build that strength and stability around there. But in the short term, managing that pain to get it to go away, the mobility of getting the quads and the hip flexors, the quads, the glutes balanced, getting your internal and external rotators balanced. Those are the primary causes of the pain that's in that area. You might potentially have some work that you need to do on some side to side motion also, but generally, if it's like as you're coming up into sitting and then it loosens as you keep moving forward, it's that front to back plane with that deep stability in your rotator. I hope that's helpful. Let me know your questions below, and if this is helpful for you and you want to learn more, please subscribe to the channel. I absolutely would love to answer your questions, so ask away and I'll create a video for you to help you manage your hip and your back pain so that us Gen X women can just rock as we get older and we keep staying active. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.